Hey guys, good afternoon. So today we're working on this neglected Craftsman tiller. This thing's been sitting out for a few years. It belongs to my in-laws and they've decided it's time to go ahead and get it back up and running. Now we're going to work on this particular tiller, but let me get some of these weeds out of the way. The things that we do to this tiller to get it running are good for anything. Any small engine that you have, you can use these same methods to get it going. I don't know what's wrong with it. Let me get a knife out. I don't know what's wrong with it, but the method that we use to diagnose and repair are going to be standard across any kind of, tiller that, or anything with a small engine. Okay, so now that we've got some of the weeds cleared out, our first chore is going to be getting this thing up to a concrete work surface. I have no idea how we're going to get it moved. I think it should roll if we put it in neutral, but the Texas heat is absolutely hateful today. So let's get started before we fry completely up. Actually rolling. I was halfway not expecting that. Where are the chickens at? Are they doing all right? There we go. They're starting to come out now. Hey guys. Hey girls. Hey girls. They're a little spookish. From the looks of it, we're going to get some shade and a breeze, so that'll be nice. So our first major struggle is we got to find out what we're working with. We want to know if it turns. Can we get it to turn over? If it does turn over, does it have compression? If it has compression, does it have spark? If it's got spark, does it have fuel? Those four things right there, and you can make any small engine out there in the world. I don't care what it is. It may not run great until you get it tuned. But if you can get those four things, if it's not locked up, is obviously a given, and I probably should have checked that before I pushed it all the way up here. But compression, spark, and fuel, those are the things that we need to make this thing work. I don't have any idea what's wrong with this thing. I didn't ask any questions about it. I was just told it didn't run and they'd like for it to start. So compression and if it's locked up can be tested at the same time. We just pull the cord. Yep, I can feel it. I can feel the compression. It's a little low, but I do feel compression, and it's obviously not locked up. Fuel, does it have gas in it? If it's got gas in it right now, we've got to drain it. So let's get change the camera angle and we'll take care of that. Okay, first things first, let's check the fuel. Bad news, it does have a little bit of fuel in there. Let me see if I can get a good shot of that for you guys. See, there's just a little bit of fuel in there. That fuel that's in there, without a doubt, will absolutely stop this thing from running. And I can almost guarantee you this thing will not start simply because the fuel has everything gummed up. So we got to get rid of that. Before I go doing that, I'm going to check and see if I can get it to do anything at all. If I can get it to spark, if I can get it just absolutely anything. Okay, so let's put the smallest touch of gasoline inside this carburetor and see if we can get it to do anything at all. We just need a touch of it. Starter fluid would work. Just a dribble. There we go. Work the choke back and forth a time or two. And let's pull the cord and see what happens. throttle's kind of stuck, but it's stuck on fast, so we'll just worry about if we can get it to start first. That may have been a burp, I don't know. I don't think so. Well, sounded like something there. Alright, cool. So it went ahead and touched off. That means we know we have spark. We know we have compression. We've got everything that we need. Only thing that we have that we need to deal with is a fuel delivery issue. So this makes our job easy, and this is 99% of what all small engine troubles is. So, let's start taking apart the carburetor. Okay, so y'all aren't going to be able to see a ton of what I'm doing here, but obviously this is the carburetor. We just need to come through here. If there's any lines that we can pull loose, this is the vent line that goes over to here. I don't see any others. Let's turn the fuel off so we don't drain a bunch of fuel out all over the place. And we'll start unbolting this carburetor and see where we can get as far as getting it off and getting it fixed. Pull that line loose. These magnetic dishes, an absolute savior. Alright, let's see what gets hung up in this. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'll go ahead and put my filter and my cap back on it so I don't lose it. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. This is our fuel line right here. This is the clamp that goes on the fuel line. It's supposed to be down here to hold this fuel line on. So somebody in the past, at one time or another, has worked on this before. So this isn't the first time somebody's been in this thing. There we go. Came loose. Wouldn't you know it, those are different size. Put these in our parts dish. And we're off. Didn't get that cleaned out as good as I would have liked. Let me blow it off a little bit. We probably should. Okay, see how I'm kind of twisting this? And it'll eventually come off of there. You just got to twist on it the right direction for this linkage right here. See this linkage? It comes down and hooks in there. Just got to twist it around and it'll eventually come off. Twist it back toward, and there, we're off. There's the carburetor. Okay, so I've moved over to not really a clean surface, but a surface that's at least cleaner than the floor. And we're going to start breaking this thing down and cleaning it out. Okay, first thing we need to do is take the fuel bowl off. These bowl bolts are normally pretty soft. They're made out of brass, or they're not steel. So you got to be careful with them so you don't strip them. I'm just using a wrench. And don't over tighten these when you put them back on. Well, that one's corroded pretty bad. Normally they come right out. So there's a lot of corrosion in there. I actually grabbed a socket instead, just because it'd be a little bit easier. Took this most of the way out already, but all right. See this little gasket? That seals in here, so we need to make sure and not lose that. Set that upside down or something so it doesn't roll away. Lift the fuel bowl off. Oh man, you see that? It's disgusting. So in here, see these little jets? We need flow to go. Come on, focus. Okay, there you can see that hole. There's one on each side. The fuel goes in there and out there. So we need to make sure that that's perfectly clear. Next thing we need to worry about is cleaning this thing out. That's nasty. All that stuff's going to wind up in all those little bitty orifices. Make sure we don't lose any of those parts. This fuel bowl should lift straight out. Pull this little pin out. It's a little frozen. Let me get a pick to knock that loose with. It's frozen pretty good. This thing's in bad shape. Let's see if I can tap on it. I don't want to tap too hard and damage it. Okay, this is not the proper way to do this. Let me get this up here so y'all can see. See, this fuel bowl pivots. And here's, come on, focus. And this pin goes through here, and that's what holds it in place. This thing should be free floating. It should come right out, but it's not wanting to. All right, it's coming. There we go. Got it. We'll have to smooth that down, any marring or knurling that we put on there. Okay, now that that's out, this should lift straight up. Okay, attached to the bottom of this is the needle valve. See that tiny valve? It sits in, there's a little U-shaped channel. Right here that it rides in. Just like that. And it controls the amount of fuel going in and out of the carburetor. This should have some sort of a sealing surface on the end, whether that be a machined sealing surface or just a rubber stop, sort of. I'll take this gasket off so I don't damage it, because I know that I will. Just gently lift it up. You gotta be careful with these. And if you're careful with them, you can reuse them. Take this spacer off. Another gasket. That one's already starting to damage a little bit, so I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, next thing we need to do is all of these orifices have to be cleaned and sprayed out with carburetor cleaner, and something ran through them just to make sure that we don't have any good, big clogs. Okay, I'm just going to start with a soft bristle brush. This is just a toothbrush. Knock off everything I can. Then move to a bronze brush. That way I don't damage it too much. Okay, well, I'm not going to make y'all stand around and watch me do this, so I'll catch back up with you. Okay, these little tiny orifices and stuff in here, you got to clean those out and actually scrub them. And they make little tiny tools that are good at that. Sometimes you can use fishing string, but other times there's just too much corrosion and you can't really punch through it. So let me show you what I do. Everybody's got a wire brush laying around. Take one strand and pluck it. Pluck one strand from it. Okay, that may be too small to see, I don't know. But there's one strand from a wire brush. Straighten it out the best you can. And then all these little orifices, go through, scrub them out. You can fish them out with, pick them out with fishing string, bread ties, from your loaf of bread work good. The little steel inner cores, those work pretty good. And we'll just go through and we'll fish out every one of these orifices. That one's good, it went all the way through. This one right here has got a bunch of them. I won't make you watch these, I'll do it off camera. What's up guys? So I was doing the edit on that video and realized I lost 100% of the footage of putting that thing back together, the reassembly process. But it's pretty easy, it's just, you know, reverse order of what we did. I will say I did notice going back in and, you know, cleaning out all those little orifices that all of the little rubber seals and the O-ring for the fuel bowl, all of that was dry rotted. So I expected it to leak, and I kind of knew from there that we would have to go ahead and replace that stuff. But I wanted to throw it back together, you know, just see if we can get it running, and then holler at my in-laws and see if they want to go ahead and buy the parts to fix that. So all of that stuff did happen. The leaks occurred that I expected, but it did start, did run. It just smoked like crazy, which was indicative of that fuel valve just letting the fuel run non-stop. You let that go too long, it'll eventually fill the crankcase with gasoline. But one thing I did want to do that I did not have time to do was show you all the tools that I took with me for that. And this is sort of my war bag, if you say, for small engines and stuff. And with the stuff that I've got here, you can fix almost any small engine issue and a good amount of like car mechanics and stuff. I would go back through there and rip all that off. It would take, you know, just a few minutes to do and reshoot that, but I just got out of hand surgery, so I really don't need to be digging around with the greasy stuff, at least for a few days anyway. Anyway, let me flip this camera around and I'll show you the contents of my mechanics war bag for small engine, the stuff that I took with me. Okay, so did I use everything that's here? Absolutely not. But I'd rather take it. It didn't cost me a dime to take it with me if I need it, but it's a real pain in the butt to have to go back and get it. Magnet. I'm going to use this as a pointer. So, all right. So right here, just a basic light, a small and kind of a mid-sized ball peen hammer, linesman's, needle nose, and a set of dikes. This is channel lock, Klein, and Klein. I like the handles of them to be slightly different colors. That way if they're shoved down in a tool bag or something like that, I can easily identify what they are. These are Knipex. These are actually, they're made by Knipex, but they were branded by Craftsman. They're the Knipex Cobras. If you haven't had any experience with these right here, I don't carry regular channel locks anymore. You can see the handles are pretty beat up on these. Once you get a hold of something, you can clamp down, and as long as you're putting pressure down here, they're self-holding. And I've actually had, you can see where they're messed up, I've had pipes and stuff on these for cheater bars. Two small vice grips, mainly just because I use them to hold stuff in place or clamp off fuel lines if needed, you know, that kind of stuff. Loctite 243, absolutely necessary if you're going to work on anything. Up here is just a Milwaukee bit case. It's just kind of a junk drawer for little bits and whatever, you know. It's got some drill bits and some screwdriver bits and whatever. Metric set of wrenches. With these wrenches, I'm going to pull out this one. The best wrenches in the world, at least for the money, are the ones from Wright. And they've got a good balance of length and thickness and everything, but I don't know if you can see it, but inside there, in the jaws of that open end, are some tiny little grooves, just the tiniest little, you know, serrations. Open end wrenches always strip everything off, but with the right grip, I've had it break bolts on the open end before it strips. Two crescent wrenches. I got a tiny one and, you know, a medium. What is that, a 8-inch or so? Let me move you over a little bit. 1/4 inch stuff. All of these belong on that rail, and I left them off intentionally because I have not found a 1/4 inch socket rail that actually holds those damn things on there. I'm constantly digging them out of the bottom of the bag. Shallow metrics, and this is just a impact rated universal joint. This one is from Matco, and they're pretty good. I've got one for the 1/4 inch also. And then deep sockets. This is all 10 millimeters, except for that one. I think that's a 14. 10 millimeters and adapters is all I keep on there. I got one adapter that's missing. I think it's up here in this bag. I'll show it to you here in just a second. And then a long flex head ratchet. Absolutely, you need one. Not necessarily for the torque, but they allow you to have reach. So that's kind of important. Obviously 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch regular ratchet. I've got an assortment of picks, just random picks. They're good for lining up screw holes or digging at something, you know. They just get used all the time. This is a panel pry tool for those little plastic clips. I use this a lot. If you get a bolt, you know, and you got a nut that you need to put some back pressure on so you can get it started with an impact, or loosened with an impact rather. These are just incredibly handy. This is probably my most used little pry bar. This is just a multi-bit from Klein. I use this almost exclusively unless I need a stubby, and then I want the shortest, tiniest stubby I can find. The Kleins are good. The Snap-on is better. One of these days I'll show y'all my other toolkit that I just leave at the house. I've got the Snap-on stubby in there, and I'll explain to you why that's so much better. This flathead, if you'll notice, it's got parallel sides here. And for carburetors and stuff, where you're reaching down inside of a carburetor to make adjustments, you want that flat, parallel sides on the screwdriver where it's not swedged out real big. There's just a regular number 2 screwdriver, and this thing, I've got a video on this specifically, but this is from Vessel, and it's cut for JIS instead of Phillips, which is what all the Japanese stuff uses. And what's awesome about it is, first of all, it grips like crazy, but you take a hammer and smack it, and just like an impact driver, whenever you smack it down, it causes a cam action and counter rotates that screw a few degrees. And that right there, man, if you've got a frozen Phillips head screw, Vessel Impacta. If this was the only Phillips head, number 2 Phillips screwdriver I had, I would be just happy with it. And it works like a standard manual screwdriver just as well also. Okay, over here, let me get my pointer. Over here is just a cheap bit kit. None of the bits that are in there are the original ones that came with it. They get lost, broken, whatever. I just buy the cheap ones. A bronze bristle brush and just a regular toothbrush, a wire brush, a utility knife, magnetic bowl. You have to have a magnetic bowl. Wind. Sorry. You have to have a magnetic bowl. This is my Milwaukee. This is my Milwaukee 3/8 inch stubby. Best power tool investment I've ever made. They're expensive, I get it, but I probably shouldn't hold it with that hand. But worth every penny you pay for them. We'll do another video on this some other time. And then just a Milwaukee 12-volt impact screwdriver. I've got my 1/4 inch extension on there. My adapter to let me run sockets. If you don't understand the benefit of an actual impact driver, we'll get into that sometime if you would like. Right here, This is a bag that I made. I think it was an old Carhartt zipper, and it's just a junk drawer. It's got hemostats and adapters and just all sorts of little things in there. It works just fine for what I need. It was free, cost me nothing but skipping taking something to the trash. Right here, see those glasses? You better have some safety glasses of some kind if you plan on working on anything. Let me move this up. And I just keep it all in this Stanley bag. Just for size reference next to that hammer. It all fits in there perfect. Light. Pair of leather gloves. That up there is a flatbed cart. You never know what you're going to have to move around. Gas can up there. Once again, if it's an engine, you're going to need gas to make it run. And if it's not running, it obviously needs new gas. So what did we find out about this? Let's go over that and discuss some of those issues that we saw with it running. First and foremost, it's running incredibly rich. We did notice a pretty severe fuel leak coming out of the carburetor. We would expect a small leak because that fuel bowl O-ring was dry rotted, but it would just be a slow drip. So what that tells us is the needle valve for the fuel bowl, the rubber piece that it seats up against is completely dry rotted and trashed, and the fuel's just running in as fast as gravity will allow it. What caused it to run so rich was it was just running and filling the cylinder up with fuel, and it just didn't have the ability to burn off that extra fuel. If we just run it like that anyway, if we get it to settle out and make adjustments and tune it and get it to run anyway, what'll wind up happening is all the fuel will run down in the oil pan and contaminate your oil with fuel. Obviously not a very good situation. However, as long as you don't have incredibly dry rotted parts, everything that we did today will absolutely repair any small engine that you have that's got a fuel delivery issue from bad fuel. Like I said earlier, this belongs to my in-laws. I'm gonna holler at them and see what they want to do about it. I think the rebuild kit for the carburetor for this one is around $20, and it's about $25 to just get a whole brand new aftermarket carburetor. And along with that, you get air filters and fuel lines and hose clamps. You just get a lot more. And I'll be honest, I've had really good luck with just the Amazon inexpensive, entire new kits, or not kits, but new carburetor assemblies. So that's probably what I'm going to suggest to them as far as that goes. Now, as far as this video, we're probably going to wrap it up here. They're out of town right now. They went on vacation. I'm going to ask them what they want to do, and I'm assuming they're probably going to want to go ahead and buy the whole new carburetor assembly. And next time, on the next video, we'll go ahead and pull all this apart and install that new carburetor. If they choose to do the rebuild kit, which they may, we'll show you how to get those installed and remove all the little jets and replace all the little seats and seals and go through all of that. So let me holler at them and see what they want to do, and maybe next week or in a couple weeks or whatever, we'll get this thing back in. Get something in my eye. We'll get this thing back on commission, right? We'll get it back going and put it back to work. This is a good tiller. It doesn't have very many hours on it at all. It's been sitting out in the sun, so it's kind of sun faded and damaged a little bit, but man, these things are pretty good. We'll also go through and there's all sorts of stuff on this thing that needs to be greased and maintained, and belts that need to be tightened, and we'll go through the whole thing on the next video and get it running perfect, back into perfect service like it was brand new, possibly even better. Well, until next time, you guys be safe.